If you can't stop overthinking, then listen to this. The silence of the night had a strange sound, a sound only those who overthink can hear. It wasn't the ticking of a clock or the humming of electricity through the wires. It was a sound born from thoughts spinning uncontrollably, weaving around each other, tangling into knots impossible to undo. Sleep stood just out of reach like a cruel mirage, and the mind, instead of resting, chose to wander through dark alleys of possibilities and regrets. Overthinking did not announce itself with a trumpet. It seeped in quietly, one thought at a time, until the brain was a crowded room full of whispers that refused to quiet down. The mind would replay the smallest moments, a word said too quickly, a smile that didn't quite reach the eyes, a text message read too many times. What did they mean? Did they mean anything? Should something else have been said? Maybe if things had gone differently that day, everything would be better now. But better how? And what if better is worse, just painted prettier? The thoughts kept coming, relentless and sharp, as if the brain was punishing itself for existing. Even simple tasks turned into complex puzzles. Should one go left or right? Speak now or stay quiet? Accept or deny? The paralysis caused by too many options was not freedom. It was a prison disguised as choice. Some say overthinking is a symptom of intelligence. Maybe it is. But intelligence doesn't always mean peace. In fact, it often means carrying the burden of understanding too much, of seeing too many angles, of sensing every shift in energy, every slight change in tone. A look from someone across the room could spark hours of speculation. Did they frown? Was it at me? Are they angry? Or maybe tired? Or maybe they weren't even looking. But what if they were? What if that moment meant something bigger, something waiting to unfold? The days began to blur, one into the next, stitched together by restless analysis and never-ending mental rehearsals. Conversations were rehearsed before they happened and reviewed long after they ended. Apologies were written in the head but never delivered. Arguments were won and lost internally 100 times over. 1,000 what-ifs danced in the dark corners of the mind like ghosts that refused to move on. No decision ever felt like the right one, because every choice came with a second, third, fourth guess attached to it. In moments of peace, the silence felt suspicious. Was something about to go wrong? Was the calm just the warning before the storm? Joy became difficult to trust. Love felt dangerous because it could vanish at any moment. Overthinking was like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter the grip, the more it slipped away. The mind wanted control, but life refused to be controlled. It moved with chaos and randomness, and the mind, in its desperate effort to predict the unpredictable, burned itself out. Others didn't see it. To the world, everything looked normal. But inside, a war was raging. A war of thoughts against reality, of doubt against instincts, of fear against logic. Even rest wasn't restful. Sleep came late and left early, and dreams were just mirrors reflecting the same thoughts, dressed in strange shapes. The mind had no off switch, no volume control, no exit. It was like being trapped in a room with mirrors on all sides, seeing the same images echo forever. There were times when distractions helped. A movie, a walk, a song. But even those were fragile shields. The mind found a way to twist everything. A scene in a movie could trigger a memory. A lyric could open an old wound. A walk through the city could become a flood of comparisons. Why does everyone else seem so sure, so happy, so certain? Why does it feel like being stuck in a maze while everyone else has the map? The worst part was the loneliness. Not because others weren't there, but because no one could understand How exhausting it was to be inside a mind that never rested. Trying to explain it felt useless. The words never matched the depth of it. People said things like, "Just stop thinking so much," as if it were a switch, as if the mind would obey. But it didn't. It couldn't. It was like telling a tornado to calm down, or an ocean to be still. The storm didn't care about commands, but the overthinking wasn't always cruel. Sometimes it came from a place of care, wanting to do the right thing, wanting to avoid mistakes, wanting to protect oneself and others. It was the brain's way of preparing for every possible outcome, even if most of those outcomes would never happen. It was a strange form of love, twisted into anxiety by the fear of loss, rejection, failure, or being misunderstood. The mind believed that if it thought enough, maybe it could avoid pain. But pain didn't work like that. Pain arrived whether you prepared for it or not. And yet, despite the suffering, the overthinking continued. Because what else was there? To stop thinking felt like giving up, like not caring, like letting the wrong words slip, or missing a danger. It felt risky, irresponsible. So the thoughts kept spiraling. The mind kept spinning its webs, trying to catch the future before it arrived. It wanted safety. It wanted assurance. But no amount of thinking ever guaranteed that. Life, stubborn as it is, refused to follow the rules of the mind. Then one day, something changed. Not suddenly, but slowly, like a fog lifting after a long night. It wasn't a dramatic moment. No loud revelation. Just a small realization. So quiet, it almost went unnoticed. The realization that no matter how much was thought, it never changed the past. No matter how many scenarios were imagined, the future remained unknown. The only place where peace could exist was the present. And the present didn't ask for perfection. It just asked to be lived. At first, that idea felt foreign, even wrong. To stop analyzing, even for a moment, felt like walking blindfolded. But slowly, with practice, the mind began to loosen its grip. Not fully, not forever, but enough to breathe. Enough to see the sky without wondering if it would fall. Enough to listen to someone speak without writing the entire conversation in advance. Enough to sit still without chasing every thought down a rabbit hole. It didn't mean the thoughts disappeared. They were still there, still whispering, still pulling, still dancing. But they no longer controlled everything. They became background noise instead of the main show. Some days were harder than others. Some nights still echoed with what-ifs. But there was space now, space to just be. Space between the thoughts where peace could grow, however slowly. Learning to live with an overthinking mind wasn't about silencing it. It was about befriending it, understanding where it came from, knowing that behind every spiral was desire for safety, for understanding, for connection. The mind wasn't the enemy, it was just scared. And when something is scared, it doesn't need to be fought. It needs to be held gently. So the journey continued, not in a straight line, but in circles and curves. Some days, the old patterns returned, fierce and heavy. Other days were clearer, calmer. The mind learned new habits, not to eliminate the thoughts, but to anchor them. A walk in the morning, a breath before reacting, a journal to catch the spirals before they took over, talking to someone without hiding behind rehearsals, listening without planning the next reply. There was no perfect cure, no magic end. Overthinking was still there, like an old shadow. But it no longer blocked the light completely. It became part of the landscape. Something to navigate, but not something to fear. And in that acceptance, there was strength. Not the strength of control, but the strength of surrender. Surrendering not to weakness, but to the truth that life is uncertain. And trying to outthink that uncertainty only makes it heavier. In the end, the mind remained active, curious, questioning. But now it had balance. Now it had compassion. Now it knew that not every thought needed to be believed. Not every possibility needed to be explored. Not every worry needed a solution. Some things just were, and that was enough. And maybe that's the secret, not to stop overthinking entirely, but to learn how to think without drowning, to allow thoughts without being owned by them, to live with the noise but not let it consume the song, to realize that the mind is a powerful thing, but it is not all that we are. There's a world outside the thoughts, a world that doesn't need to be predicted, understood, or controlled. It just needs to be experienced, one moment at a time. Now, it was clear that overthinking isn't bad, but clinging to every thought isn't necessary. Not every thought needs to be held. Some must be let go. Instead of seeking perfection in every moment, just living that moment fully is the greatest peace. Thanks for watching. Please share this video.